He's a vice president for the government affairs firm Englander, Knabe and Allen, and Republican strategist Peter Van Voris. He is the chief strategist at the political consulting firm Magnum Strategies. And Alex, to you first. I mean, we want to make sure that we talked about Robert Mueller. These two are not connected, okay? So the bottom line is, you think President Trump would just acknowledge, yes, there was meddling. All the intelligence agencies have said there was meddling. Doesn't incriminate him, what they're saying.
No, it's a great point, and I think it's a great opportunity for the president and some Republican leadership to build some consensus here. Look, you hit the nail right on the head. They need to compartmentalize these two issues. Special committee comes out yesterday, says, guess what, the intelligence community got it right. They need to latch on to that. There's consensus to be built that Russia meddled in our election. Whether there was collusion on the part of the president or the campaign is a different issue.
Yeah, and whether it worked, right? Peter, you're talking about this whole thing. You think, we don't know if it worked. Yes, there was collusion, says all the agencies. I'm not sorry, not collusion. Yes, there was interference. We don't know if it worked.
Well, that's true. And look, Trace, whether it worked or not, I think it's important that we need to look at this and say that Russia, or any other countries for that matter, should not meddle in our elections. But let's remember, who was in power in 2016? Which administration had the onus to go stop that? It was the Obama administration. And like you both said, I think it's important to compartmentalize meddling in the election and collusion. Those are two separate things, and I think the media has really confused them on purpose.
So Alex, Peter's saying, look, if it wasn't collusion, somebody's got to be blamed for this, and it was the Obama administration. Is that a fair assessment, or is that...
Look, there's enough blame to go around here, and I am equally critical of prior administrations, Obama included, for not taking Russia seriously enough. But that presents a great opportunity again for Trump to be tough when he meets with Putin in a couple weeks here, to really take a stand. Look, let's take stock of what's happened. You've got Senate Democrats, Senate Republicans, House Democrats, and the entirety of the national intelligence apparatus saying there was meddling. Yet earlier this week, we have the President of the United States still casting doubt on that.
And Peter, he makes a very good point. I mean, the elections are sacrosanct, right? You're like, these things cannot be interfered with, and there is all this evidence and all this agreement that there was interference. Why doesn't the president just come out and say, you know what I'm going to do? The first thing I'm going to do, he said he's going to bring it up with Vladimir Putin at the summit. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell him this is not acceptable. Look, if he's not involved in this, it's got to be not acceptable. Why all the denials?
I think a lot of the denials is, first of all, he may not have known initially when that came out. And I think it's important, like you both said, to compartmentalize this. I think it's very important when he meets with Putin to do that. But I think what he's been concerned about is people view this Russia thing as just one thing. They view collusion and interference as the same thing. So when he's speaking on that, I think he's speaking mainly to the collusion thing, because anytime we bring up Russia, what the media and other people in the Democrats do is they try and make it about collusion when there's no evidence for that.
And it's a fair point, Alex. I mean, you know, he's fighting this thing since the day or before he was inaugurated. So it comes down to President Trump thinks, if I give them an inch on this whole Russia investigation, if I say, yeah, okay, there was meddling, then the next thing you know, they're all saying, yeah, there was meddling and it was collusion. So, you know, people don't really understand that these are separate things we're talking about.
Look, the American people are smart, and they're smart enough to distinguish between those two issues. Again, I think it's a lost opportunity here for Trump and Republicans if they don't team up and see that there was interference in our election. Look, a foreign entity that has a history of being hostile to the United States is a nonpartisan issue. We should all join together and, you know, decide that this is an issue that we can tackle together. If Trump doesn't do that, Republican leadership doesn't do that, it's a missed opportunity.
Right. It's no surprise that Vladimir Putin is not going to fess up to this. I mean, come on, we just talked about the poisoning over there in London, right? Two of them, there's all this evidence saying this is Russia. This new poisoning, we don't know. Putin says, nope, wasn't us. He's always going to say, wasn't us, wasn't us. Maybe it's time for the president to say, look, we need to all be on the same page here when it comes to Russia.
Absolutely, and I think everyone needs to be on the same page. This meeting with Vladimir Putin is a huge opportunity, and I would encourage, like he encouraged Republicans, I would encourage Democrats, unless there's evidence of collusion, which we've seen none, to drop this whole collusion narrative and come out immediately and say, essentially, look, let's make sure that interference doesn't happen. If collusion did, by all means, let's take a look at that. But we haven't seen it. They're the ones confusing the narrative. I don't think Republicans have.
Not nearly enough acrimony on this panel between you two. We need to get a little bit more little bit more spice in this. I'll give you the final word, Alex. Anything?
Yeah, I think it's very dangerous for the sort of the lone holdout Republicans in the House, Trey Gowdy, Devin Nunes, some others, to keep beating this drum that there was no interference. I think they would be much better off strategically to get on board with there's interference. Whether there was collusion is a different issue. By the way, on the collusion issue, let's let the investigation play out. Still half as long as the Benghazi investigation.
Fair point. Alex Cherin, Peter Van Voris.
Peter Van Voris, you got it.
Great to see you, sir.
Great
Thank
to be
you.
with you.